Vinnie is avoiding Bijan Robinson at running back one cost. I highly disagree. We debate about that, plus reveal 5 other running backs to stay away from at cost on today's episode of Locked On Fantasy Football.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Fantasy Football Podcast. I am one of your co-hosts, Michelle Magdziuk, and when I'm not doing this, I'm a researcher and fantasy analyst with NFL Network.
And I'm your other co-host, Vinnie Iyer. When I'm not doing this, I'm writing about NFL fantasy and betting for sportingnews.com.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Today, we are going to be discussing 6 running backs that we believe have bad draft value for this season. And just like yesterday's episode when we did this with quarterbacks, we're going to discuss 2 guys that we don't like their costs that are being drafted very early, then 2 running backs that are going more in the middle of the draft that we are avoiding, and then also 2 later round running backs that despite their low cost, we're still really not interested in drafting them at all. Vinny, your first one, it's super spicy. Who is your least favorite highly drafted running back to target this season?
Yeah, if you go back to the quarterback show, I didn't kind of let any big names go with Lamar Jackson. And I'm doing that again with Bijan Robinson. I went with the number 2 quarterback. Now I'm going with the number 1 consensus running back on the board, Bijan Robinson. It's not anything against Bijan Robinson. It's more against the number 1 pick. I always feel like whoever you take at number 1 is not going to live up to that value. And there's another curveball coming in, right? That Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson are also in the mix when you look at the top pick overall in fantasy. They've definitely crept in the conversation, especially Chase. And in a lot of rankings, you'll see Chase ahead of a lot of people here. But look, I do like Bijan Robinson a lot. He finishes the RB4 last year. I do like it. I'm not sure, however, you're going to get any value with this pick. And look, I'm not saying you don't take him early as your running back, but I'm not sure he's that much better than Jahmyr Gibbs or Saquon Barkley, or even getting in the next tier, right, with Derrick Henry and Ashton Genty. Some of these guys might have higher upside than Bijan Robinson. Keep in mind, it's the Falcons. It's still the Falcons, right? It's not the best team right now, and the offense is still figuring things out and transition to Michael Penix. I'm not trying to knock this pick at all. I just don't think you're going to get the return, right? I just think if I'm picking one, I might go wide receiver instead. And I also might think if I'm looking at running back, I might look at Barkley. I might look at Gibbs because I think their situations might be a little bit better in terms of repeating or having the production close to what they had last year. Now, Barkley, I thought about him as well because usually when you have that high volume, you're going to have a bit of a regression of production. But the situation is just too good here for Barkley. And then you look at Gibbs, who's just on his way to totally taking over that Lions backfield as David Montgomery might see a little bit more of a fade here. So it's nothing against Bijan. I just don't think he's ahead of everyone else so much where he stands out to me, especially as the RB4 last year. I just think you're going to be a little bit disappointed if you take him there. I think, however, you take Chase or Jefferson, you're probably going to get wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 overall for sure, where I'm just not sure you get that return with Robinson. Again, I get why he's ranked number 1. I just think it's a little too rich again for anybody, and that could be just me. And I often don't get this pick, so I don't get to make this decision. So maybe that's it. But I always feel like whenever you have the pressure to make the number 1 pick, whether it's Jonathan Taylor or Christian McCaffrey, it's always a bit disappointing in that particular season.
So I disagree. Like if I have the 101, I'm taking Bijan Robinson. And I'm very much on the side where I normally go, if there's a great running back out there, right? Like I want to go running back 101 because when you hit on a great running back, they can score up to 23, 24 points per game, right? And then with Jamar Chase this year, even last year at 1,700 yards, 17 touchdowns, well ahead of all the other wide receivers. He was still at, I mean, it was amazing at 19.9 points per game in half PPR. It's just not the same ceiling a running back gives you. And then you look at Justin Jefferson, a great year with over 1,500 yards and 10 touchdowns. We can't ask for more than that with JJ McCarthy. And he's at 15.6 points per game. So that's why I lean running back. And then you mentioned Saquon Barkley or Jahmyr Gibbs. Those would be the other options. But with Barkley, he is a lot older than Bijan. He just had a huge workload. And then also he has to worry about the touchdowns being stolen from him around the goal line with Jalen Hurts. And then Jahmyr Gibbs, Gibbs balled out when David Montgomery wasn't there last year, but his numbers are completely different when Montgomery is healthy compared to when he's not. So I don't think he deserves the 101 as long as David Montgomery is, still playing with him. So that's why it's the clear-cut Bijan Robinson to me. I mean, he did start the season slow last year, but from week 6 through 18, he was averaging 21 points per game. Week 6 through 18. I mean, that's a massive chunk of the season. That was most among running backs, more than Barkley, obviously, because it was more than everybody. But the amount of work he gets, what he did with Michael Penix Jr. last year, starting averaging 26 points per game, 25 touches per game. I think they have to lean on him, and we know he's going to get all the goal line work, and he gets so many targets. He gets so many touches. Like, he's my clear-cut 101.
Yeah, I think I'm just playing a little devil's advocate here, just saying that I don't know if clear cut might be a bit of stretch because, again, he was the RB4 through all that last season, and there are some people that finished ahead. So I just maybe this is telling everyone that I do not want the number 1 overall pick because I feel a lot of pressure and I'm going to make a mistake no matter what. So maybe that's my indication. I'm not hating the player. I'm hating the pick at number 1. And just so much pressure that comes with that and not making a mistake, where I think if you pick 4, 5, 6, you're probably going to be okay and still get that very high scoring player, and then also come back and get some better player earlier in the second round as well. So just something to consider. It's more the position and the pick. So look, I like Bijan. I'm just not sure. I mean, we've just seen the history that shows usually the number 1 ranked guy does not finish number 1 in fantasy scoring. So just a little bit of a history lesson maybe at play there. Now, who's your person? It's a little bit lower. I think it's a little bit maybe not as hot as mine, but still a very buyer beware situation that I like to talk about.
Yeah, it's Josh Jacobs. He's going as running back 9 right now, and he cleared that last year as running back 5 overall, running back 7 on average. But he scored 15 rushing touchdowns, 16 total touchdowns. Could it happen again? Sure, but with him, you have to have the touchdowns, right? Like with Bijan Robinson, yeah, he scored 15 touchdowns last year as well. But with Bijan, like if he goes down a little bit, you're not as worried because he gets so many receptions and targets. Josh Jacobs last year saw only 43 targets. That was his fewest in a season since his rookie year in 2019. So he's just not involved in the passing game. And they really needed more pass catchers last year. I mean, with all the injuries they had at the wide receiver group, right? And now they brought in Matthew Golden, who you would expect to see a heavy amount of targets. And Marshawn Lloyd wasn't healthy last year. Maybe he's healthier and gets more work. But Matt LaFleur also clearly likes to have multiple running backs. He doesn't want to just lean on one guy. He very much has been, it's not 50-50 backfield whatsoever, but he's going to get other running backs involved. And Josh Jacobs didn't even have he didn't finish inside the top 10 at the running back position until week 8 last year. He went through like a period of time where he was scoring touchdowns like no other. But the only weeks he gave you that were like winning weeks were when he scored multiple rushing touchdowns. There was even a couple 3 touchdown games in there. And besides that, it was a lot of, lower teen numbers or middle teen fantasy points. And that's just not worth a first round pick to me. He doesn't offer that exciting upside that I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's fair. Then you look around him. There's those guys with exciting upside.
Like Bucky Irving. I would rather take the chance on Bucky Irving.
And you have Kyron Williams, maybe a little bit safer, a little bit below him. But then you look at right above, you have Genty and Henry. Then right around him, you have Christian McCaffrey, who you like for the ceiling, and Jonathan Taylor, who I like for the ceiling.
And Achane, who will get a ton of receptions.
Yeah, so he's kind of more lost in the shuffle between guys that I think will outproduce him. I think it's a little tighter at number 1, actually, because you have so many more guys competing for that spot. But down in this tier, I think it's easy to see that Jacobs is a guy that, look, he may not be the best. And I talked about this with the Jordan Love breakdown yesterday. The Packers are a team that, if you're going to say I'm going to avoid targeting a team, I think the Packers would be one on my list. I might put the Texans on there too. But there are some teams that just don't appeal to me. I just don't want to have that exposure where I'm not saying stay away from the Falcons. I think they have definitely a little bit more buzz there with what they have. But again, Robinson is the best of what they're going with. But I think definitely the Packers just seem like a bit of a situation to avoid with all the moving parts and maybe some backs getting healthier as well there. So I'm excited to see, again, how the draft kind of shakes out for the running backs and the top of the rankings as we get closer. But we will look at some of the middle tier running backs that we're going to be avoiding here in the middle rounds, and we will get to that. And then a couple of sleepers that we're not going to be targeting ourselves. We'll get into all of that after one of our quick breaks. All right, this episode, Locked On Fantasy Football, is brought to you by Rugiet. That's Rugiet. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis and maybe even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Ready. Rugiet Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in everyone that needs it and really boosts blood flow and really makes you ready when the moment is right. It's a 3-in-1 formula that is special that you're not going to get anywhere else. That it's just very easy. It dissolves under your tongue and it kicks in about 15 minutes, and effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay ready when the moment is right for you. If traditional options haven't worked, Rugiet might be the answer you're looking for. More than 150,000 men have already made the switch. You can even read all their real customer reviews on the site. It's helping a lot of people be more confident and present in the moment. Head to rugiet.com/LockedOnNFL to use the code LockedOnNFL to get 15% today. That's Rugiet, RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL, and use the promo code LockedOnNFL for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA trials for effectiveness or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiet website for more full usage information. All right, Michelle, it's time to continue the show and reveal our next couple guys that we're avoiding in the drafts. And these are a little bit later. We're getting out of the top 10 and into the teens right now. Who's the running back that you're not going to be taking here?
Yeah, I'm going to go with rookie TreVeyon Henderson. He's sneaking up the boards a little bit too much right now. He's going as a running back 23, and I don't love the Patriots offense, right? We're trying to talk ourselves into that could be a bit better, and it will be better than last year. It can't really be much worse, right? We have high hopes for Drake May with Josh McDaniels, and they added I like Kyle Williams a little bit. We'll see what they can get out of Stephon Diggs when he gets back healthy, but this backfield right now is absolutely crowded. And they did take Henderson super early in the second round, so great draft capital where they'll want to use him. But he's a smaller back at just 5'10", 202 pounds. He's speedy. He has great athleticism, don't get me wrong. And he can break away some runs. And he's a great pass catching back, so he should be involved in that area. But also, if Antonio Gibson still makes his team, that's also competition for receiving work. Ramondre Stevenson isn't a slouch in the receiving game either. So he has a lot of veterans to work against. And then it's going to be a very different situation for him than it was at Ohio State. PFF had the Patriots as the worst run blocking team in the NFL last year. They've tried to fix it a little bit, but I don't think they've done enough to really change it over the course of one offseason. Like Ohio State, who's running behind a much better run blocking offensive line. And then there's really going to be no goal line opportunities for him because he is a smaller back. Patriots running backs had just 15 carries inside the opponent 5-yard line last year. That was 6th in the NFL. There's just not going to be a ton to go around. And I just don't think they're going to give it to their rookie, who's a small guy at that. So if you're in a full PPR league, maybe he can come through if he gets a ton of receptions, but in half PPR standard, like this is just too high for me. The guys going after him, like there's a couple of rookies going after him, and RJ Harvey or Caleb Johnson, especially Caleb Johnson, I just think has a much better opportunity to get the goal line work, to get a lot more just volume in general, that I'm just going to stick with them instead of risking a rookie on a bad offense.
to not take Ramondre Stevenson, right? I mean, he's going way down in the 40s. That's an easy fantasy take at this point because of Henderson. But telling you not to take Henderson is a next level thing, right? Because again, you think, oh, exciting rookie, Ramondre Stevenson's going to lose his job. It could get pretty ugly with that split. And again, what do we expect out of this Patriots offense? Keep in mind, we're excited about Drake May and potentially running, right? And taking away those little check down passes. So that may not be as available to Henderson or Stevenson. And then this team, look, Josh McDaniels is probably going to want to see a little bit more of Drake May and throw it. And I think they want to be a throwing team. And you're right, Michelle, the run blocking is not what it was just a few years ago when McDaniels was there, and they were very effective at running the ball and using the backfield. And again, they were just a better, more functional offense at that point where they had some things going on. McDaniels is just returning, so his job here is to work on Drake May more than anything else. And I think it's going to maybe stay a frustrating split backfield for a while. And you may not get that return you're looking for. And again, Stevenson, still not very interesting, right? Just because it's split, you're not going to go after him. You're not going to go after Henderson either. So I just feel like that may be another situation you want to avoid. But where we heard this before, Patriots backfield is a headache. You don't want to touch it. Usually in the McDaniels era, and he's back to mess with us in fantasy once again. Now, my guy is Joe Mixon, and this was not a very good offseason for Joe Mixon. Now, we talked about what we had with the offensive line in front of C.J. Stroud in Houston, losing Laramie Tunsil. Tunsil was pretty good at pass blocking, but overall, this team was very good at run blocking and really helped Mixon kind of rejuvenate coming over from the Bengals. Now, can he do it again? He's getting older. It was more wear and tear. And the problem is what happened here. Late in the process, they picked up Nick Chubb. Now, why did this team really need Nick Chubb? I mean, I guess they saw Mixon and saying they needed somebody on those early downs. And Chubb, what can he do? Pilfer those touchdowns, right? I think Chubb still has something left in him. I know he's had the knee injuries and the volume and all that, but he actually, I think, has less tread than Mixon. So this could be a golden opportunity for Nick Chubb to kind of reestablish himself with a key role here. I figure it's going to be more of a split backfield potentially headed towards. I mean, right now, Joe Mixon is RB19. I mean, he was really a steal last year because no one expected much out of him after the Bengals kind of cast him off. But I think in general, this Texans offense, the arrow's pointing down, right? They have a transition. They're going away from Bobby Slowick. That was in a different system that Mixon thrived in. Now they have a little bit of a Ram system. They're going to be more open to better options in the backfield if they need to go there. And Chubb might give you that, a little bit more explosiveness maybe in reeling off those long runs, if his knee is okay, right? But Mixon certainly is not going to give you that explosive running ability anymore with his wear and tear. So, again, I'm going to avoid Joe Mixon. Again, the Texans, Michelle didn't really want to go after C.J. Stroud, so I guess between the Texans and the Packers, we're not thrilled about either offense at this point, especially those two positions.
I will say I do think the Texans offense is going to be better than last year. I'm excited to see what they can do. I'm excited for Nico Collins, but yeah, CJ Stroud, Joe Mixon. It's not like I'm actively avoiding him at cost, but James Conner's going right next to him. I would just prefer James Conner. They're both aging backs, and I just like just how consistent James Conner has been for so long now. David Montgomery would be a close call with him. So there's definitely close calls. I'm not as against Joe Mixon as you are, but I get it. And if Nick Chubb's knee is better than last year, then there is a big worry there with, goal line work or, even just the volume that he was getting insane volume when he was balling out last year. So that could change. We are going to get into two more running backs we're avoiding. These are guys that are going late in drafts, but we're still just not that interested in them. We will hear about that right after we hear from a couple of our sponsors. This is an ad by BetterHelp. Workplace stress is at an all-time high. 61% of the global workforce is reporting higher than normal stress levels. This summer is a perfect time to take small steps to focus on your wellness and manage the challenges that come with your workday. Of course, most of us can't just quit our jobs or take endless vacations, but we can start small, whether it's getting outside for a few minutes, adding movement into your day, or talking to someone who can help you navigate life's challenges. That's where BetterHelp comes in. Therapy can help you set healthier boundaries at work so stress doesn't spill over into the rest of your life. Personally, working with a therapist has helped me develop positive coping skills that make my day-to-day challenges easier to manage. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Unwind from work with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon.
This episode is also brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. And look, summer sports are in full swing. I mean, we're waiting for football. We're counting down the days. We're almost, I think, at 47 days or so away from the season. So we're looking really good here for the NFL. But there's plenty going on. We know the British Open just ended with Scotty Scheffler winning again. There's still a lot of high-stakes soccer action. Baseball has got the second half stretch run. We got the trade deadline coming up. FanDuel is the best way to make every game even more exciting here through the postseason. If you're already following the action, why not make it a little bit more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get on the game while your friends are getting sunburned at the beach. You can just be chilling, watching your sports, and watching those winnings roll in. It's easy to use, and you get those fast payouts. Makes it even easier to treat every regular season game like must-watch events. Whether you're playing a same-game parlay or watching a bet ride in the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like you're right there, part of the action. New to FanDuel, that's good news for you. New customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bet if your first bet wins. Again, new customers can bet just $5, get $150 in bonus bets. All you have to do is open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com to get started with your deal. All right, Michelle, it is time to close the show, and we're going to dig a little bit deeper. So you're taking notes and highlighting players and maybe thinking what Michelle is or thinking what I am. Well, we got a couple more to think about here later. These are guys going RB25 or later on the board that we're not necessarily looking at to add as RB2s or sleepers. So who's your choice of running back that you're not touching this offseason?
So everybody's favorite sleeper, and people cannot get over this man. It's Tank Bigsby from the Jaguars. He's running back 42. It's super late. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he's going in the 11th, 12th round. It's not like you have to spend early on him. And yeah, of course, he has a chance to maybe beat out Travis Etienne for the starting job or whatever. But he had that chance last year, right? Travis Etienne could not have been worse. And he had his chance to steal his job. And guess what Tank Bigsby did? He finished as running back 40 on average, averaging 7.8 fantasy points per game. I'm not trying to say Etienne was good. He was even worse than that. But we've seen Etienne be really, really special in his career. He was drafted to be special. Bigsby is just a guy. And he was given a chance to be the lead back, and he still couldn't score any fantasy points. And people are excited that Liam Cohen's there and the possibility that Bigsby is, goes in the Bucky Irving role. I just don't think that's the case. I think if Liam Cohen fixes his backfield, it's because he fixes Travis Etienne, and Etienne is, balls out again. Last year, Bigsby had 12 targets all season long. He played 16 games. He had 12 targets all season long. He offers you absolutely nothing as a receiver. So you're completely dependent on getting a rushing touchdown because it's not like he gets enough even carries to just score points that way. He had more than 10 fantasy points in just 3 games last year, one of them being a 12-point game. And he had fewer than 5 points in 50% of games played last year, 8 of 16 games played. Only 7 games with at least 12 touches, only 2 good games all season long. I'm just that there's just no, he could be in the 15th, 16th round. I still don't want to waste a roster spot on him.
Yeah, and maybe he's inflated by the fact his name is Tank, right? Everyone thinks, oh, Tank, he's a power back that I want to have on my team. Like, if his name was just whatever, Joe Bigsby, I don't think you would be going after him as much. But everyone wants the Tank to come through and pound and take over this job. And look, I know why people are looking at this, right? They're looking for part 2 of Bucky Irving over Rachaad White in the Liam Cohen offense. Everyone's pulling that, right? But again, maybe you need to flip it and say that Tank Bigsby, in his limited role, is really more the Rachaad White in his limited power capacity, while Travis Etienne, we know, can score touchdowns and do part of that, and also is the more adept pass catcher, really, in the end. So I think Etienne, if he's healthy, he's going to get the key touches in this backfield. I mean, Liam Cohen knows what he's doing. They used a first-round pick on Etienne. They know what kind of talent he has. Bigsby, again, he's kind of disappointing the coaches. His durability has always come into question as well for a guy named Tank. It's not been one of his greatest assets to be available and take full advantage, as Michelle said, of when the opportunities presented itself with Etienne. So Tank staying away from it, and I agree with Michelle that Etienne is becoming a better value as more people are into Bigsby here. Now, my pick, we haven't really talked about the Titans. I mean, it's a team that we're not going to talk about all that much, but the big thing happened there is Will Levis is down. So we're going to get Cam Ward starting here with no questions, right? Not like it was a surprise, right? That Cam Ward is going to start no matter what. Now, I'm going to turn my attention to the backfield and Tony Pollard. I don't know if this is the best news for Tony Pollard because things are maybe changing in a direction to spread the ball around a little bit more, use Tyjae Spears and that weapon there with Cam Ward. Ward also is a very good runner in his own right? If Will Levis was starting, maybe you'll get more of those check downs and rushing opportunities that I think now Ward might take from Pollard. And again, there's going to be a bit of a split with the usage of what they're trying to do here in Tennessee. Just Pollard, again, I saw him last year. He was impressive at times, but he still only gave you RB2 value. Now you're just dropping him a little bit to RB27. It's not great, right? There's so many other backs you can target the second half of some duos even that you look at. I know Jalen Warren, you're a little bit worried, or Najee Harris, but they're in some good situations to kind of come through as complementary backs. But Pollard, I think it's going to be a little bit scattershot with the way they distribute touches on this team in Tennessee. And again, another team that I'm not particularly looking at between him and Calvin Ridley and Cam Ward. There's not a lot that I'm really saying, okay, I got to have a Titan on my team, and Pollard is the guy that's going to make the engine go. So that's how I look at it, and that's why I don't really need to focus on Pollard when there's so many guys around him that I'd rather take, and so many guys a few spots earlier as well.
Yeah, if you're going with Pollard, you have to really hope Cam Ward fixes this offense quickly because they did have the fewest goal line carries in the league last year.
Yeah.
Like the scoring opportunities are just not there. I don't absolutely I'm not absolutely against Tony Pollard, but when you're looking at the guys going around him and Caleb Johnson again, or Aaron Jones or an RJ Harvey, or even like if you want to go a different position with Travis Hunter, George Pickens, like those guys actually offer like league winning upside. I cannot see a scenario where Tony Pollard, you take him and you're like, oh my goodness, he has such an amazing value. Yeah. He won me my league. Like there's that probability is just like sitting at 2%.
You're not going to miss out on him. You're not going to be like rue the day. Why didn't I target Tony Pollard? You're not going to feel that way. So exactly. I mean, so I had to lay it up a little bit from Bijan Robinson. So that's only fair. But I don't know if the Titans just are a team that I want to look at more closely at training camp, see how much I want to invest for them. Now that we know Ward is going to be the guy, but Pollard is not going to be my guy. Probably as RB2 or flex in most of my leagues.
It makes a lot of sense. That will be it for today's episode. We'll be doing the same experiment with wide receivers. Tomorrow we'll give you 6 wide receivers for staying away from at cost. Before I let you go, I want to remind everyone that the Locked On NFL Top 100 has been released. The NFL Top 100 was voted on by the NFL hosts of Locked On, and there are some stunners. So don't miss where your favorite players were ranked. Subscribe to Locked On Sports today on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye, y'all.